As companies scale, governance often lags behind. How can CIOs set up governance frameworks that grow with the business and staffing without stifling innovation? What are your thoughts?
It's hugely important. It's changed so much since I got into this business. He used to really be in charge of things much more than they are now. And we really saw a whole series of things, everything from microcomputers that allowed people to run things on their desk to the cloud, and now AI, which is just the latest version of this. All of those things democratize technology. They enable business people to actually go create solutions for themselves, which is awesome. And we've exploded the value that people can get from these technologies by unleashing it from having to, everything has to go through the IT department. However, we do have these little security issues and cost issues. We have an explosion of SaaS applications in most companies. I don't think there's any company of any size that you go to where you won't find duplicate technologies. And so I think you put it exactly the right way. How do you find the balance? Because I don't want to stifle innovation. AI was a great example of that, right? There were legitimate security concerns when this came out. I think a lot of those, by the way, have been addressed. And sometimes people are continuing to be a little bit more worried about that than they necessarily need to be. But certainly in the beginning, like especially, there was legitimate concerns, but also clearly we got to get our hands on this stuff. We got to be using it. There's no way that we're going to be competitive if we just put our head in the sand and say that AI stuff is just a fad, it's going away. No, trust me, this is big. The approach that I've always taken, and even when I first got to Gainsight, I remember doing a blog post about IT as a facilitator more than a dictator, frankly. How do we play that role of facilitation, coordination, governance, architecture, but not actually have to necessarily own every single resource and every single application? And I think that's entirely possible, but it requires a little different mindset. It requires some openness on both sides, to be honest. I think those business groups that say, no, I have to do this all myself, have to be willing to give a little bit. I think IT has to be willing to give a little bit. We can meet in the middle and say, look, can we jointly come together and have a council that manages this application or this function? And I think those kind of models they're not just the future of IT, they're the present. And I think people who aren't taking advantage of those kind of structures are missing out.